I work for the guy, we all kind of work for the guy, so you got to be a little careful how you put it and say it. But I suggested that we go up there Sunday early and maybe just go on 9 holes. So I got like a text back because I'll be there Sunday at 2 o'clock, like it was his idea.
I think I threw up twice in the first 6 holes. I couldn't breathe all day. That's as nervous as I've been.
As soon as Tiger got a little bit in eye shot, Charlie just took off. and you know, that to me was the best part, just to see him take off without me saying anything.
I love the fact that I'm watching him enjoy the process right now.
I'm just going to dive straight in and say, at what point did each one of you, starting with Joey, think that this was possible?
For me, it was probably going back to the Tour Championship in 2018. Not because he won, just the way that he won. You know, playing with Rory, who was a world-class player, going toe-to-toe with him in the last round and beating him in the rest of the field. You know, you got the sense that you weren't at that moment thinking, oh my God, he's going to win Augusta because he won the Tour Championship. But at that point, he proved to himself that he beat, I think, one of the best fields in golf, even though it was only 30 guys.
The fact that he put himself into the Tour Championship after being out for so long, and you just saw this resolve in him, and the calmness and patience that he exhibited for 20 plus years with him. So leading up to the Tour Championship, you knew that there could be some special things on the horizon.
Once he could start to hit a draw with the driver, then Augusta was back into play. And it started a little bit at the Tour Championship, and then he sort of refined it a little bit more after that. And the beginning of the season last year, he started to hit the draw, and he'd be on the driving range at Medalist, hitting high draws, thinking about 13, shots like that where you have to have a high draw at Augusta. And, he would sort of smile like, I kind of have something here, I can play there. So that's kind of when I knew there was a chance.
I mean, those scenes there, the scenes at Augusta were incredible, but the scenes at the Tour Championship, I mean, talking about iconic scenes, that was insane, and you were right in the thick of that. How was that?
I was almost getting run over, definitely in the thick of it. It was awesome. I just remember Tiger kind of looking back at me, kind of giving me the look like, why are you hanging back and what are you doing? And I'm hanging back, same reason we talked about off camera, but Steiny always hangs back because we don't want to be part of the deal on 18. But he looks at me like, you're going to get run over and trampled, you better get your ass up here. So I did. But it was fantastic. I mean, when you're working, you don't appreciate it as much. When I got done, all the guys, the caddies were up at the clubhouse and they were kind of filming it from the clubhouse view, and it was just awesome. So I looked at that video 100 times going over to Paris that night, and still kind of gives me chills. It's pretty fantastic.
I remember looking out. I was on, we were all on the 18th green. I remember looking out at the East Lake clubhouse and just players hanging out of the windows watching. Like it was surreal. I can't remember who I saw, but I just saw players literally hanging out there. They weren't gonna miss it. They were missing flights to watch.
Now in terms of, I know he loves to prep early in advance of Augusta, but really, when did that planning start happening? And physically, what does that process look like? Do you guys sit down and talk about it, and how does that work?
Pretty much after the season's over, he starts thinking about Augusta. He was thinking about when to maybe play a practice round and looking at what, potential tournaments to play leading up to it, what would give him the best shot. So that's kind of always how he's been. It's almost like once that last season ends, the next event in his mind that he's really trying to peak for is Augusta.
So how does that early part of the season unfold for you in terms of signs or expectations in various events that he's playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me watching him, he actually had a few better starts to start the 18 season versus the 19 season, but he was just very consistent. There were no missed cuts. There wasn't, 1 week where he just struggled swing-wise or, short game or something. It was all, very consistent. And then for me, the thing I saw him sort of take another step was match play week. Again, he played Rory I think that was a good confidence boost. He advanced out of the first round, and he sort of dialed in his short game. His short game, I think Joe and I sometimes tend to get on him because we feel like he's so good that if he can get up and down all the time, you know, the odds of him winning are so high. And that week, he really, you know, his short game really started to come together. His wedge is really tight. He holed out, you know, against Cantlay in one of the matches to win a hole. And it started to, I think, change from there. And then he just sort of brought that really tight short game into Augusta just 2 weeks later. And, you know, that was critical.
Rob and I are always after him to work on his bunker game because it's like he sort of has a tendency to blow that off a little bit. And we're like, come on, let's hit some bunker shots. And we'll throw the whole bag of balls in there. He may only hit 6 of them, but we're going to give it our best effort to have him work a little harder at that. Personally, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't think he had played enough to have a shot at Augusta. Because even though, like you said, he played well at the match play, half the time you're not even putting out at the match play. So it's not a stroke play event. So you're not really finishing holes per se. You may not even be playing 18 holes. And I think he only played 4 events maybe up before that.
Yeah, it was short. He couldn't play Bay Hill. So.
It didn't seem like a lot of golf or enough golf to me just to have the tour reps and, like I said, day in and day out kind of work. So I was a little bit skeptical just by the lack of, you know, real rounds, so to speak. But as it turns out, it worked out fine.
Now, speaking of the not having that many reps, you were quite instrumental in getting him to go there a little earlier. And there was a pretty special practice round.
You know, I work for the guy, we all kind of work for the guy, so you got to be a little careful how you put it and say it. But I suggested that we go up there Sunday early and maybe just go on 9 holes and chip and putt if nothing else. I said, number one, there's no crowd there, which is, the crowd's great. Once the tournament starts, I get it, but it's nice to play a practice run or a chipping practice run with no crowd there, because you can get a lot more done. And nobody's watching, nobody's roughing you up, nobody wants a picture or an autograph. So we suggested that, you know, like Steiny says, he took it to heart. He didn't, you know, typical Tiger, didn't even text me back. You know,
There's no answers right away.
Joe does the same, by the way. There's no text back from Joe. He goes Tiger all the time.
Don't take it personal. That's just with everybody. Yeah. But so I got like a text back 4 days earlier because I'll be there Sunday at 2 o'clock. We're gonna go around the front 9 and chip and putt. Like it was his idea. I'm like, okay, great, perfect, I'm in.
In the early part of the week, was there any inkling? Did he say anything that may give away that he felt it would be a special week?
The vision and focus seemed a little bit different. But no, he doesn't say anything like, yeah, this is my week. And let's just be clear with something with Joe. Joe doesn't really love people. So if you, I mean, I can...
Opposite, that's the mayor right there. He knows everybody.
I can play, well, he knows everybody, but he would prefer not to know everybody. Yeah, so I can play you, I could call him right now and play you the voice message, which you've already heard, which is, hey, it's Joe, leave a message. If it sounds interesting, I'll try and get back to you. If not, probably won't. So... I respect that.
That week, obviously, everyone sees what happens on the golf course, but what does it look like away from the golf course? What does he do?
He instructed me in 1997, fairly sternly instructed me in 1997, don't bother me during major championships. I have a plan. I know I have a lot of sponsor engagements throughout the year, but not those 4 weeks.
Let's go into that final day, that Sunday. How much of a different feeling did that have with the timings due to the weather that week, because it was a lot earlier than it otherwise would have been, and how much did that play into that moment or occasion being a little bit more relaxed perhaps?
For me, I think, you know, we caught a big break in the fact that we went from twosomes to threesomes, which put Tiger in the last group. So that was first things first. And then people were texting me, they're going like crazy because Tiger, I guess, said on the air, you got to get up at 3 o'clock to get that tee time. And they're like, is that true? Is that true? I said, I don't know exactly what time he's going to get up. I said, to be honest with you, he's awake at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I would much prefer to have a tee time at 9 o'clock because by the time the 3 o'clock in the afternoon tee time comes, which is normally when it is, he's been up for 12 hours. He's, you know, he's exhausted almost because he just does get up so early. So I thought it was a break for us. Because like I said, most normal human beings sleep till 7 o'clock in the morning. He just doesn't do that. So for him to get up at 3 and get ready for the round is kind of normal for him. So it wasn't that big a deal. So I thought we had the advantage there. So I thought it was great. I thought that was the first big break of the day.
I, for one, I couldn't breathe all day.
That was going to be my next question.
That's as nervous as I've been.
Yeah.
His mother, Tita, you know, texts me on final rounds every Sunday like, you okay? You okay? You okay? And I was so frickin' far from okay. I was terrible. I mean, he's watching every shot, he's in the mix of it, and I'm just sitting out there like, oh my God.
But okay, you couldn't breathe. How are you feeling as a final round?
I was surprisingly okay. I think the hard part was the beginning of the round. He struggled early, and it wasn't terrible. He didn't shoot himself out of it, but to me, I was nervous until he kind of made the birdie on 7, and not only did he make a birdie, he almost holed it, and I think it just sort of when you're top world-class player like that, and you almost hole out a shot to that difficult of a green, I think like, okay, I got it. Just trust me, trust myself. And I felt like the rest of the round, he trusted himself. But I was really nervous those first 6 holes because I knew what an opportunity he potentially had. And, I really was hoping he didn't get too far back.
I think I threw up twice in the first 6 holes.
Joey, how is it from your point of view?
Anxious and excited to get the round going. Same thing Rob just hit on. I think the fact that he made actually a nice 5 on the second hole. Yeah. He had a chip on him. He's back there from 230 yards away, hitting his 3rd shot. So he's got a hanging line with a 4-iron, and he hits a great shot up there, but he hits an even better 2-putt. So people kind of forget about that. You certainly don't want to make bogey on number 2, and then he comes back with a nice birdie on 3, and then like you said, 4 and 5. Not the end of the world. You're going to make bogeys on those holes some of the times, pretty tough holes. But to come back and make birdie on 7 and 8 and kind of get the ship righted was fantastic. And then we go into the back 9. Going in the back 9, like we talked earlier, he's been there a million times. He's going to have his chances and opportunities.
Joe is a incredibly calming influence on Tiger. Joe, not just on the golf course, in life, because we've gotten to know Joe really well as not just Tiger's caddy, but as one of our best friends. He's balanced in every single, it doesn't matter if you bogey 4 and 5 and then birdie 7 and 8, it's the same way, and it's the same conversation. He never gets anxious, and I think that goes undervalued and underlooked a lot, because you're out there 5+ hours every day. I think, we knew Joe. Joe and I have known each other for 25 years. Knew him way before the Tiger days, and it's such a great fit and mold that it means a lot.
And overdoing it with Tiger is the wrong thing.
That's a bad
thing. You can't, if you over caddy, if you over coach, if you kind of overdo anything, it's off-putting for him. And
you look for a new job.
Yeah, and Joe is very much, he's going to have the numbers, do everything that needs to be done, but that's it. He's not going to kind of go over the top, and that's a perfect fit for Tiger, which is very comforting, especially when it's, back 9 innings.
Right. Well, I've gotten that look many a times. A little suggestion here, he looks at me like I'm the biggest idiot in the world. Yeah. I'm like, okay, he heard me, but I don't know. Right. We'll see what happens.
I guess it's the 4-iron.
Listen. Right.
It's such a cutting look.
Yes. Right. Like, really? Okay.
Now, post-round, the final putt's gone in. There's a euphoria, but really try and describe, I know it's tough, but try and describe what those moments were like and how you felt.
Yeah, it was very surreal to kind of be there and watch it happen. And then even when the putt went in, it was like, did it really happen? Is this real? Sort of, is it really over? I think that's what's it was such a long road for him. From 2008, I think. All of us, even though Joe wasn't caddying for him in 2008, I think all of us in 2008 thought, well, Tiger will win another major, pretty soon within the next few years, if not the next season, and he should have, in 2009, he should have won at least one probably. And so for it to go, 11 years was just such a surprising thing that, when it did happen, it felt like, is it really over? Because it was sort of this journey for such a long time. But then for me, it was just great to get the bird's eye view and see, Charlie. I was trying to kind of tell Charlie and Sam, like, you can't run down at Augusta and, you know, go on the green. And they were really good, and they were hanging, you know, close. And then as soon as Tiger got a little bit in eye shot, Charlie just took off. and you know, that to me was the best part. Just to see him take off without me saying anything, it was just like, bang, you know, and that was awesome.
I felt like he was feeling this would be equally, if not more important, for his kids to witness this in person than it was for him. And that's when I broke down. I was pathetic. I was awful. And you know, being there when he hugged Earl and then Tita and then seeing this, it just, I don't know. I know everybody said it's full circle and it's all that. It was more emotional than I ever thought I would ever be.
When he had that par putt of 8 or 9 feet above the hole, and then it has a little too much speed. It's not crazy, but a little too much speed. And I see him he never does this, gives him kind of like the knee kick to try to coast it in. I'm thinking to myself, why of all the times is he trying to make a putt when he doesn't have to? He never ever does that. And then I thought to myself, well, he's not trying to coast it in. He realizes he's hit it too hard. And he doesn't want a 2-footer coming back. But as it turns out, it was only this far. But I'm so far up on the hill, I think it's a little longer than it is. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm not thinking he's going to miss it, but I'm thinking to myself, all right, let's make this thing and get the hell out of here. That was my thought when he won. And then kind of what these guys said, you know, I peeked at the back of the green and saw the kids there, and I thought that was fantastic. And I knew it was going to get emotional for everybody, and I thought that was great. But again, not that I'm Joe Caddy, but I feel like the job's not over. We still got to get in there and sign the card. You know what I mean? You know, you always think about Augusta National because that's where it happened.
It's never over,
right?
Yeah.
Now it's much more thorough in there, but I'm still thinking, somebody else is keeping his card. He might be jacked up. We could both have a score. Who knows? You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I'm thinking all those things. So I really didn't enjoy it until that card's in, to be honest with you.
He is so no fun to be around during tournament week. I mean, there's nothing fun about Joe LaCava during tournament week. I mean, it's just like, how'd he hit it today? It was decent. I don't know if Tiger has ever had a better round or practice session than, it was decent.
How was the celebration afterwards? What happened?
Well, you know, what's interesting is, you know, when you win at Augusta, that's where the, you know, whole Butler cabin thing comes into play. And, you know, they have the studio downstairs where they do the interview, but it was great. It was really nice. And then the club brings you back inside for a little reception dinner. You know, that was kind of the end of it. Then we were on a plane. We were home, and I was like, I brought out the trash Sunday night back at home. I told my wife, I was like, you know, shocked right back into it. You know, Tiger has his thing, and I'm back there midnight dragging the trash cans to the curb.
And then after everything has happened, at what point did you take stock of everything?
I think later that night, you know, like Rob says, it doesn't really sit in you. Like, even he made the putt, and you know he won, obviously, but you're still thinking, did he really actually just win the Masters? Yeah. So I found out that night when my wife and I actually went to Hooters, which I'm not a Hooters guy, but
yes,
we went
that's
to.
amazing. I didn't know this.
No, we went. No, seriously, because what happened was it ended early, so all the local guys were still there. I mean, the local caddies were still there. And so a couple of the local guys said, we're going over to Hooters to have a beer. Do you want to stop by? And Rob will tell you, we know the local guys from playing the week before with these guys. They're all great guys. They said, sure, I'd love to stop. God is my witness. There was 200 people in there. They were all male, and they all had a Titleist hat on. I took a picture with every one of them.
That's amazing.
It was
I don't
unbelievable.
think I knew that.
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. It was scary. I mean, all in a nice way, but it was like, really, you guys got to get a life. First of all, you're at Hooters. You still got your golf clothes on. You got your Titleist or Nike or Bridgestone or whatever TaylorMade lid on. And
Megan came with you.
She did. Oh yeah, she was a champ. She watched me take 200 pictures. It was unbelievable. But that's what we did. So I hung out with the local caddies. None of my guys were there, but it didn't matter. We had a blast. And then just kind of reminisced later that night. And like Rob says, by the time, 10 o'clock rolls around, you're exhausted. Then it's bedtime and you're done. Yeah.
Should we go to Hooters right now, or what?
You didn't expect that one. That wasn't in the script.
And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've been to Hooters maybe twice in my life. So I'm not like I'm going to Hooters, but no, I understand, but I mean, I'm not anti-Hooters, I'm just not a Hooters, I just never go to Hooters. And the guy said, we're going over here, so my wife's like, oh yeah, we'll go, I don't care.
What is that saying? He who doth protest too much?
Yeah, exactly. Not that much.
So You guys obviously have been with him, his best friends, for God knows how many years. You've seen the highs, the lows. In terms of what this did to change his legacy, to change his whole story, really, how do you think about that and how do you feel about that?
I love the fact that I'm watching him enjoy the process right now. Like, enjoy going through it and being so successful again and being happy about it and visibly showing that. Whereas maybe the first part of the ridiculous ascent to his career was results, results, results. And I feel like he's like, now that the kids are old enough, he's just truly enjoying the process and visibly showing that to the world, and to me, that's heartwarming.
You know, the thing that was so unique about it and different about it now is, like in '05 when he won, right, Augusta, dramatic win, the chip in against DeMarco, a playoff. I mean, all these scenarios that are just very drama-induced. And I remember calling him, I'd left that weekend, but I remember calling him and he was in the car ride going to the airport. And we had texted earlier. Actually, I don't think we had texted. I think this was before text. So I called him on the phone and he answers and he's like, hey. And I was like, well, congrats, you know? And he's like, thanks. And then he's like, so we have that thing tomorrow, right? It was just, in his mind,
On to the next thing.
it was already 3 or 4 hours and he was sort of half transitioned into it and was very, you know, he was very grateful for the win, thrilled for the win, but his expectations were so high. And I think to, you know, go through all that he went through and physically be so limited and, you know, think I may not play again competitively, and then to have won it, you know, it was a genuine sort of surprise and, like, you know, happiness that, you know, was just different, you know, and so that to me is what will make 15, you know, maybe the most special. I always sort of thought maybe '08 was the most special just because of physically what he went through, but it's weird, and I never thought anything could really replace it, but you know, 15 I think kind of did, just because, you know, he just wasn't expecting it, and I think he appreciated it so much more because, you know, it took so long to get there.
Everyone's talking about 83 now and the next major win opportunities as well. What do you see as possible over the next few years?
You know, I think anything's possible. You know, stating the obvious, he's got to be healthy and he's got to stay healthy, which I think he will. I'm not a doctor, but he's doing the right things. He's working with the guys. He's taking care of his body. He works, you know, relentlessly before rounds, after rounds, just on his back, and then he does the work in between. So I think that can continue to go in that direction. I think the sky's the limit. Looking forward, of course, you're always thinking big things for the guy. I mean, why wouldn't you after what he's just done in the past year? But going, you know, backing up just for a second, I think when you said what's kind of been the difference here, I think for me a big part of what I've seen is, you know, less is more. He's gotten much less mechanical. He's playing much more by feel. He's much more athletic, and I think that's when he plays his best. You know, he's doing his own thing right now, just playing by his athleticism, which I think is fantastic. And I think that's what's got him to this point, along with his health.
Tiger and I talk about it, you know, it's a marathon endurance sport, golf, tournament golf. You know, it's not a sprint, it is, you know, not some short-lived thing. It's taxing, and you have to be mentally prepared to do it for 30 hours that week. And so, you know, for him, it's that, you know, just a little bit of bumpers to kind of keep him, you know, in his own, you know, sort of lane. But, you know, it's him, you know, he owns it, it's his game, you know, he's kind of in control, and, you know, we're just there to kind of, you know, guide him just a little bit. And I think he is so much better when he's just kind of in control.
Well, I think it's safe to say that history has been made, a very exciting history, and we're also looking forward to an incredible future where it's Tiger Woods, anything is possible, and we're all excited to see how the future unfolds. Speaking of future unfolding, I have been sitting in front of a plate of cheese for the last 45 minutes that is near impossible for me, so I'm going to dig in.
Yeah, no, start.
Let's do it.